Hi guys, I'm BJ. I'm with Real Property Management. We manage rental properties in Maryland and DC. So basically we will handle anything for an investor, somebody that owns a property and is looking to rent it. Today we're going to discuss, say you're getting transferred. Maybe you have a really good interest rate and you're looking to buy a new house. You're trying to decide what to do with your current house. Do you sell it, maybe self-manage it, or do you maybe hire us to manage the property? And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that process of if you said, hey, I need somebody to kind of jump in and handle this for me. Typically what we get is we have investors that buy homes just for the reason of renting them. They call us, they know what property management is. They know kind of what we do for them and how we fit into what they're looking for. Our focus is how to help these, some people call them accidental landlords, sometimes it's an intentional landlord. For instance, myself, when I bought my first home, my wife and I moved into it, and then we decided we were gonna move. And so we bought another home. We decided to keep that current rental. And we decided we wanna find a tenant, we wanna keep it. And the value of that is, it's hard to get qualified for a new house. So if I was gonna go buy an investment property and I wanna go buy a house down the road, I've got to typically come in with 20, maybe 30% down. I'm going to pay a higher interest rate. And so it can be very expensive. But if I already live in the home and I'm moving or I'm looking to buy another home, I can keep that current loan I have, that owner occupied interest rate, and I can rent that property out. And so that's where we come into play. So you say, hey, I'm looking to rent the property. We can come out and we can handle everything from you from A to Z. So from A to Z for us is helping you get the property on the market and rent ready. So the day you move out, we kind of assess what work needs to be done. We can get bids for paint, carpet, whatever needs to happen. We can manage those vendors. We can handle the payment to those vendors. We can update you on the cost and then facilitate all that. Once the property's market ready, which for us means it's clean, new carpet, new paint, it's in good shape, we then put the property on the market. So we'll come in, we'll take a bunch of marketing photos, just like what you'd see on Zillow for a house for sale or for rent. We'll do all those marketing photos, list the property on about 30 different websites. So it goes from our website and then it syndicates to Zillow, HotPads, Trulia, Rentals.com, you name it, it goes out there. And then we handle all those leads. So when somebody says, hey, I want to come look at the property, we schedule time with them, we show them the property. So we'll walk the property with them, we'll discuss what it should rent, what we're asking in rent. We'll discuss, the closest daycare, the closest grocery store, all that kind of stuff. So we'll handle all of that. Or you would sometimes see like a real estate agent does that, or a real estate agent does that for a property for sale, or you could be like a for sale by owner. We do that for property rentals. You can hire a real estate agent to lease the property, and a lot of people do that, but we also do that in-house. Once we show the property and say, the tenant says, hey, I want to move into this property, we would then have them do an application. So we will have them do we'll do a full background check. Six different things we're looking at. We're looking at their income, we're looking at their credit score, we're looking at their background history, we're looking at their credit score, we're looking at their rental history, and then we're also going to check some references and make sure these guys are going to be a good fit for the property. And so typically, if they fit kind of in our box, they make 2.5 times the rent, they have good rental history, they have a good job, all these kind of things, we will then recommend to you, hey, let's approve these guys. So we now have a tenant that wants to move into your property. We'll call you and say, hey, we're ready to move forward. We will then sign a lease with that tenant. We have a lease that was prepared by DC attorneys, Maryland attorneys, a good lease that we will then facilitate that lease, have that lease signed, and then collect the security deposit from that tenant. And so now we've got the property leased, we've got the security deposit, and now we're just kind of waiting for the move-in day. And say that move-in day is the next 30 days. We then, once the tenant's ready to move in, we will meet the tenant, exchange basically keys for first month's rent. In the meantime, we'll also go through the property and do like a full market evaluation, take photos of everything. The idea is we want to document how the property was from the day we gave it to the tenants. The tenants move in, they've got a clean house, everything's great, they've paid rent, we have a deposit, we have a lease, and then we handle, this is kind of where it can get busy and different, but typically what we found is tenants that move in, good tenants, they're going to call us pretty quickly if anything's wrong. Like say the dryer's not warming and drying, or there's some stuff we missed, like maybe the dishwasher's not cleaning as well as it should be, or something. What we call that kind of the nesting period, the settling period, where good tenants are actually going to update us about issues in the house. Because they walked in this house, they saw this beautiful home, everything looked great, and then maybe we missed a couple maintenance things that even you as an owner, maybe you're dealing with. Maybe there's a squeaky door to the bedroom that you've dealt with because it's not that big of a deal. But the tenant's going to call us and say, hey, this door squeaks. We recommend getting out there and getting that fixed, because if you show the tenant, hey, I'm going to take care of this stuff, if you update me about maintenance, I'll fix it, create a better relationship with that tenant. Yeah, it costs you a little bit of money up front, but it's going to establish a relationship with that tenant where they know you care about the house. If they call us about something, we'll fix it. It also helps them know that they should take care of the house. Now, the next thing and the big thing in this is we want to inspect that property, do a property evaluation of that property every 90 days. So tenant moves in about 3 months, we want to go meet the tenant, walk through the house again, just to make sure they're settled, make sure it looks good, make sure they've kind of unpacked, make sure they haven't moved in 10 people, make sure they don't have extra pets. That rarely happens, but just in case. Just make sure they're happy. And so when we go and do these walkthroughs, we're gonna take a picture of the outside, walk around the outside, make sure everything looks good. We're gonna walk through every room and grab a couple photos of each room. And what we're looking for is, again, those things. Does everything look good? Is there any holes in the wall? Did they maybe paint a wall they shouldn't have, that kind of stuff? And we'll document that. So now we give that information to you so you can see what the house looks like after 90 days. And what we found is when we do that, we can go through, maybe fix a couple small things. Maybe those tenants have a couple loose doorknobs or the disposal's not working. Hopefully those things we can quickly fix. If it's a doorknob, we can just tighten it up for them real quick. If it's a disposal, maybe there's something in it, maybe it's a reset, maybe we need to crank it. But a lot of those things we can kind of knock out on that quick inspection if the tenant hasn't called us for those items. Typically, again, a good tenant would maybe update us and we can take care of those. But we're also going to look for other things, like maybe the furnace filter hasn't been changed. So we're going to tell the tenant, hey, it's your responsibility to change this filter. We changed it before you moved in. You have a new filter, or you need to go buy a filter. Here's your filter size, go buy that. It's these kind of things that, again, good tenants are fine with because they know that we're going to come, we're going to take care of the house. We want to document the shape it's in, what we want to avoid. And I've done this myself. I've managed my rental properties before I owned a property management company. And I was just so happy to get a tenant. I would collect their rent. They would move in. I would, maybe go knock on their door, collect rent out each month, but I never got in the property, and they'd move out 3 years later and had destroyed the kitchen or had destroyed something. We want to be ahead of that. Like if we're seeing that maybe the tenant's not taking care of the kitchen every 90 days or 180 days, we can say, hey, you guys got to clean this up, fix this, maintain your property. So when the tenant moves out in a year, 2 years, 3 years, we know A, what we're walking into, B, maybe we've been able to correct some things they're doing that could cause problems. Like let's say, one of the big ones is caulk around the tub, right? That's something that, it should last longer than we think, but if a tenant's not cleaning it, they've got mildew and stuff that's gonna create cracking and deterioration there. But that's not taken care of. If the tub's installed correctly, it's not the biggest deal, but it also is signs of other things that maybe the tenant's not taking care of the rest of the bathroom, or maybe they're not using the shower curtain correctly. So it's these kind of things we wanna see. Once we've done that 90-day inspection, our next thing is we're kind of just, as rent's collected, any maintenance that's happening, we're sending you that owner draw on the 10th. So each month you should be seeing rent. We'll say it's $2,000. Say your management fee is 10%, so we're $200. If there's no maintenance, you're getting a check every single month for $1,800 deposited into your account like clockwork. If there's any maintenance that happened during that month, say the tenant called and said, hey, my disposal's backed up, we'll send a vendor out, we'll update you, let you know what's happening, but we'll take care of it. Send the vendor out and he says, hey, there's a bone in this or something. We'll clean that out, fix it. We'll say, hey, this is a tenant charge. We'll put that on the tenant ledger, so the tenant now owes us $2,000 plus that $150 to fix that. Next month, we're going to collect rent from the tenant. They're going to pay $21.50. You take out the $150 for the maintenance, take out the $200 for management fees, and you're still collecting $1,800. Now, let's say that disposal was actually broken and rusted and old and needed to be replaced. So say it was $300. The tenant's going to pay rent. We're going to take out the $300 for the disposal and the $200 for management fees. So you're going to get a check for $1,500. Some of our owners, and if it's a bigger job, we'll have you actually send in money so we can pay that vendor to handle stuff. You would contribute some money. We like to kind of use rent if we can. If it's anything over like that $300 threshold, we are going to update you and say, hey, let's get you some bids. We want the idea of maintenance for us is we're available 24/7 to the tenant. Fire, flood, blood. They're going to call us. If it's a fire, flood, that kind of stuff, we're going to get somebody out there ASAP, get the emergency stopped. So if it's flood, we're going to get out there, get the water turned off, maybe start cleaning it up, start some fans to dry it, but we're gonna come back the next day, right? If this is at midnight, we wanna stop the issue. We don't really wanna call outside vendors, a plumber at 2 a.m. to come and fix a pipe. That can wait till the morning, but we wanna stop the emergency. And then next morning, you'll have an update that, hey, this happened last night. We're getting a plumber out there to bid this, what this cost is to fix it. Kind of wanna get the water back on as quick as possible so the tenants still can live there, that kind of stuff. And then start the cleanup process. Now again, this is one of those things that you hear about horror stories in property management. They are horror stories. Yes, they do happen, but typically what we found is if we do a good pre-move-in check of the property, we know the condition of the property, pipes can still freeze, HVAC still goes out, furnaces still stop working, but we're gonna avoid a lot of those emergencies. And then tenant situation, if we do a good background check, we make sure we're getting you the best tenant. Our job's easier, your job's simple, and good tenants will update us when stuff's going on. But there's still death, there's still sickness, there's still people that lose jobs, there's still divorce, there's still things in life that happen. But our goal is if we get a good tenant that we've background checked and we know they're gonna take care of the house, they'll update us when there's. What we found in 16 years is, and this isn't true for everybody, But good tenants that are getting relocated or they lose their job, they'll update us before. It's the tenants that avoid us and don't call us and don't respond to emails or texts and won't tell us why rent's late. That's usually a sign that there's something going on that isn't a lost job. But good tenants will update us. Tenants that are not as good will avoid us. And so again, the goal is to get the best tenant in the house as possible. So kind of back to you're looking to relocate. Our what we offer is we can help you keep that property, move a tenant in, we can manage the day-to-day, and then we send you rent each month. You can pay your mortgage, pay your expenses, your HOA fee, all those kind of things. And in an ideal situation, you're cash flowing, $200, $300, $400 a month. Sometimes that's not the way it works. The market in DC shifted and changes and rents go up and go down. Right now, the rents went down a little bit. They're kind of rents will keep going up. They'll warm up. And if you have a really good mortgage interest rate, that's staying flat. Taxes might go up a little bit. Insurance might go up a little bit. But let's say in a perfect world, you're cash flowing. You're making $100 a month. You pay us, we pay management fees, you pay your mortgage, and you have $100 left. That's amazing. And that's what most investors strive for. I have owned multiple rentals and I've cash flow some, but sometimes my strategy, it would be great to cash flow, but I also like to buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods. So I'm not buying this super cheap $50,000 house in Baltimore, whatever city that I can turn and cash flow easy. I like to buy a house in a nice neighborhood, and I focus more on appreciation, what that property is going to be worth in 5, 10, 12, 20 years. And then also you get the tax deduction, tax write-offs of your mortgage interest rate, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's more about tax deductions and appreciation. Our goal would be with you is you have this house that maybe you've lived here 5 years and you have a 30-year mortgage on it. You've paid that mortgage down for 5 years. Let's turn this into a rental. And let's put a tenant in there and say in 25 years, which seems like forever, that house is now paid off and the tenant has paid 90% of that. You've also gotten appreciation. It's probably in 30 years, maybe tripled in value, who knows, doubled in value, whatever happens. But you've also got tax write-offs. The way the tax system works is, carpet has to be replaced every 7 years type stuff. Paint needs to be done. Houses deteriorate over time. And so you appreciate that expense on your taxes. Talk to a tax accountant to get exactly how this works. But you have write-off each month. And so say you're a high income earner and every year you pay a bunch of money in taxes. By owning this rental, you actually might not be paying as much. Talk to your tax accountant about that, see how they can help you. But that's what's worked for me. And so back to kind of owning and having it paid for. That second house I bought with my wife and I, it's now paid for. It's been a rental for 22 years. We paid it off early, which was amazing. And it now cash flows very well. Our next thing we're looking at is maybe we borrow against that and can buy another rental. That's a couple things. So the goal here again is help you as a landlord that's looking how to get into this, of what we can do for you. So now let's keep going through the life of that lease. Let's say now the tenant's been there a year. 60 days before their lease ends, we're gonna reach out to them and you and say, hey, what's your plan? Sometimes landlords move back and say, hey, I want to live in the house, or hey, I need to sell it because X happened, right? So we want to know that. But typically, most landlords are like, hey, let's keep it. Let's rent it again. Can we increase rent? We're going to run numbers and say, hey, the market's gone up a little bit. I think we can get 3%. And we'll go through that situation with you of your property, of the tenant. If the tenant's taking care of it, we'll maybe recommend a lower renewal because the risk of losing a good tenant might not be worth a crazy increase. But let's say the tenant's not taking care of the property. Let's say the tenant has been tough to deal with. They don't let us in to do inspection or marketing evaluation. They pay rent late every month. Whatever these situations are. And the market's increased a ton. We might say, hey, we recommend a 10% rent increase. Then we go back to that tenant and say, all right, we're looking to renew the lease. Here's the new rate. You're paying $2,000. We're going to raise it $50. We're looking at $2,050. The tenant will say, yeah, no. Sometimes they negotiate. A lot of times they'll ask questions. But if the market has done this, they're great because the cost of them moving is expensive, but we don't want to charge them so much that we force them out. So the goal is let's keep good tenants to help you avoid vacancy. Rent not coming in is a lot of lost money. Turnover cost, tenant moves out, we're gonna have to go in and probably do some painting, some touch up, maybe some floor repair, and then that lost rent, right? So you're looking at vacancy, turnover costs, and then a new lease renewal fee or leasing fee. So when we find another tenant, we're going to charge you a leasing fee to move a new tenant in. So we can keep that tenant, that property for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and you avoid all those breaks and leases and that kind of stuff. So let's say the tenant decides they're going to move out. The tenant says, hey, I'm getting relocated, or I'm going to buy a house, whatever their situation is. We will now know that 60 days typically before that lease ends. We can start preparing the move in. We should have been in the property 2-3 times during the year, so we should know the condition of it. We can update you pretty quickly. Hey, the property looks good, but we are gonna have to paint. Help that tenant, make sure we collect all the rent. Once the tenant moves out, we're gonna go into the property and do another property valuation. and document the condition of the property. We're going around looking at the carpet, looking at the paint, looking at the appliances, looking at the countertops, looking at everything in the property, looking at the roof, looking at the exterior. Did the tenants take care of the property? Did they clean? Did they change the furnace filters? Did they clean the tub? We need to recall all this stuff, right? So then we're going to compare that move out evaluation to their move in evaluation. Say, hey, the property was given to you really nice, in great shape. You returned it with torn carpet, holes in the wall. We're going to then use that security deposit to cover those expenses that are beyond normal wear and tear. You need to expect, so normal wear and tear. If I live in a property and I'm renting from you, I should be able to use that property like my home. So I can hang pictures, I can have furniture, I can do all these things, right? And carpet's gonna get worn over a couple of years. There's gonna be scuff marks on the wall because, it happens. We're looking for intentional damage like a hole in the wall or broken tile that doesn't make sense, chipped countertops that don't make sense. Maybe they didn't do any yard work over a year. Well, our lease states they need to take care of the yard, and so we can charge them for some of this stuff. But if it's just scuff marks, if it's just wear on carpet, nothing that seems extreme, we're going to return that tenant their full deposit plus the interest that would have been earned over that year. And then that tenant's now done. And in the meantime, we've now created a turnover list, whether it needs carpet, paint, whatever those things are. We're going to get bids for those and then get that property back on the market as soon as possible. If the tenant's taking care of the property, which would be the main goal, we can start marketing that property about 30, 45 days before they move out. So we can get it on the market, start collecting good leads, maybe show the property once a week to get people in, and hopefully find a tenant that can move in a week after these guys move out. Tenants move out, we go into a cleaning, maybe a painting, little things that need to be done, and then the new tenant moves in. So just like that, the previous tenant, we've done a background check on these new guys, we've signed the lease, we've collected security deposit, and then when they move in, we'll exchange keys for first month's rent, and then the process starts over again. And now the way I love this is I bought a lot of rentals. I actually tried to manage myself in Utah, and I'm not a really good manager for myself. I'm a bleeding heart, I guess. And so, but I hired a property manager for my properties in Utah, and now I still own those. I had a lady that actually called my mom one time because she had a plumbing leak. I was working a job. And she had a plumbing leak in her kitchen sink. I think she had clogged it. She tried to clean it out with a coat hanger, a wire coat hanger, and she popped a hole in it. And so she had a leak in her sink. In my opinion, well, she called me. I was at work. The old phone book, there's only one McKellar in the phone book. She called my mom and yelled at her, said I'm a slumlord and this kind of stuff. And so I was ready to sell this property. I was done. This lady drove me crazy. I'd done everything I could to make her happy. And no matter what I did, she just wanted more and more and more. But part of that is she knew I was the owner. I was young, I was excited, I was proud to be the owner. I'd go over there for anything, I would get on the roof, I would fix all this stuff. And I decided to hire a property manager. I had done real estate sales in the past. I'd managed a few people's properties and hated it. It wasn't the greatest thing because you're dealing with toilets, tenants, and termites, that kind of stuff. But now, 16 years later, that house is paid for. Now I do property management. I've done property management now. When I tried to do it before, I didn't have a system. I barely even knew how to do background checks. Now we have a system. We know how to do a good background check. We know what a good tenant should look like. We have the systems to handle maintenance. We have the systems to handle rent collection. We have the systems to pay owners. And so it's all about creating these systems. It's very easy for you as a landlord. You hire us. We can have the property, if the property's rent ready, we can have it on the market in 2 days. We could potentially have a lease in a week. Our average leasing right now is about, we guarantee we'll have you a lease in 29 days from the time it's on the market, the time we actually have a lease and security deposit in hand. Now the key to that is property's gotta be in good shape, location helps, and then the price matches those, right? The price has to match the location. If it doesn't, and we're overpriced and maybe we have old carpet, old paint, most tenants aren't going to pay a premium for a property that's not in good shape. So we got to match the price with the condition, location. If the price, the condition, and location meet, we'll have that property leased in 29 days. So you'll know after that what you can plan for, what money's coming in. Another thing to talk about is, say you own this property, you're getting relocated. You're like, I got to sell it because I need that money to buy a new house. Well, technically, check with your mortgage officer, but if we can get that property leased, they'll typically count 70% of that gross income as income for you, right? So say it's $2,000 a month, times 12 is $24,000. 70% of that, quick math in my head, $1,500 a month. They'll count $1,500 a month as income for you. So you could now say, hey, I've got a W-2 income, I want to buy a new house, and I have this property, but I'm also gonna add this $1,500 a month as my income. So it can still help you qualify. Now the great thing is you keep that interest rate on that current house. Your new house, you're actually buying it maybe a lot money less down than buying an investment, and you're also going to get a better interest rate because it's owner occupied. But it's going to be a lot easier to do this, to buy and move. Sounds like it's not the greatest thing in the world, but with military and government in DC and all the different entities of people moving in and moving out, it's a great way to acquire real estate. As a company, Real Property Management, we actually manage, I can think of multiple properties, but one lady in particular, that she was military or is military. She's been moved throughout the United States, 5, 6, 7 locations. And Real Property Management actually manages her property in DC. I know in San Antonio they manage a property for her. I believe in Utah is another one. So everywhere she's gone, she's kind of bought a house, lived there for 3-4 years while she's stationed there. And then when she moved out, turned it into rental. Now she's very, very smart about it. And she does it the way I did it, which I guess I'm a genius. I don't know. You buy it, you live in it, you fix it up, you get it into a condition where you know the property, you know the hot water heater is only 4 years old, you know the HVAC runs great, but maybe it's old, right? So you have all these ideas now when you move out of what to expect. You're still gonna get the tenant that says, hey, can you fix this squeaky door? Or can you fix this floorboard? They're still gonna build those things and they're not terrible. But you now know that house. When you rent it and stuff comes up, you know what to expect. Or maybe you fixed it, or you hired somebody to fix something and you can say, hey, call this guy, he fixed this before. But what this lady does and what we did is we would fix it up, get it really, really nice. Not super nice, it's the nicest you can get, but get it to where it's a good rental that's with good materials, that's gonna last. And then you move to the next property. And now when somebody moves in, all that stuff's ready and it's easy. And so now the property is going to be pretty easy to maintain over the next 20, 30 years. You know how long the roof is, all these. That's what she does very well. She goes in, she fixes them up very nice, gets them to where they're probably nicer than most rentals need to be, but people like nice properties and they're willing to pay for that. And so she gets them there, rents it out. And we've had this property for her that I'm thinking of in Northwest. It's a 3-plex. She's had that. We've managed that for maybe it's one of her first properties, 15, 16 years. At least another idea is, if you're looking to buy a house, and let's say you don't have a large family, buy a 3-plex or a 4-plex. You can actually buy this owner occupied, move into one unit, right? Maybe these are all rented, and you can fix them up while you're living there for a couple of years, or hire us even at this point to manage those 3 while you're living there. And then in a couple of years, you can move and buy another house and do it again. And so her buying the 3-plex, she lived in, one of the units, fixed them all up. They're all very similar in style. And then when she moved out, we then rented her unit. So the entire time we managed the other 2 units for her. She didn't tell anybody there that she was the landlord. She would just pretend she was another one of the tenants. Then we were the person that would deal with it. That's the idea, is you have this property. If you sell it, great. You might be able to make a lot of money because DC appreciates very well. And maybe you're getting 100, 200,000 or 50, whatever that number is. Then you have realtor fees, you have closing costs, you have all these things. But then that's done. That money, you're gonna get a one-time cash out. You rent the property, again, you might cash flow. You're definitely gonna get appreciation tax deductions. And in DC, Maryland, you're gonna get appreciation. It's just a matter of how much. So you got kind of the triple threat there: cash flow, tax deductions, and appreciation. And so our goal is to help you with that, to make your life easy so you don't have to do all the day-to-day. There's also laws and stuff like that DC, Maryland is very tenant friendly. But it's still a great market. There's still really good tenants that are moving in, moving out. Government employees that are only here for a little bit, they're going to rent for a couple of years. Fantastic. We have really good tenants, take care of properties. Again, the key is to have a really good property that attracts good tenants and do a background check to make sure those tenants are as good as they look. They move in, they're going to take care of it. There's going to be maintenance that happens. We would say plan about 10% of maintenance expense. Rent, again, $2,000, $24,000 for the year. You should plan about $2,400 in maintenance expense. And that's just for stuff like a disposal or caulking. If the house is older and maybe it's going to need a roof, or the HVAC's on its last legs, but it's working great, plan a little more. You might want to plan for some preventative maintenance, stuff like that. Like, let's say the hot water heater is working, but it's 10 years old. Maybe it's a good time to start saving to get that replaced before it's an emergency, and fix it maybe during the down season, in fall, where HVAC plumber guys aren't crazy insane because AC and heat, to get a bid on getting this hot water heater replaced and to save that emergency. The worst is we know something's old and we're just waiting for it to die, and then all of a sudden it leaks and it floods the basement, and now we have to replace carpet. Maybe there's some sheetrock that needs to be cut out. Maybe we're looking at restoration to dry it, air it out. Maybe tenants are displaced. So if we know this kind of stuff's happening, it's great to have it done before it needs to be done. For example, my property that I live in, we turned on our AC this week, working great, and all of a sudden at 5 a.m. it was blowing like 80 degrees hot air. Next day, turned it back on, it was working fine. 2 days later, all of a sudden it started blowing hot air. So instead of waiting for everybody to have their ACs on right now and then for it to die on the hottest day of the year, I called one of our vendors out. He showed up yesterday. It's just had a couple issues. Can you come check this out? He checks the system inside. He's like, I don't see anything here. The filter looks good. It was just changed. So he closed that up, goes outside and spends some time outside, and then comes in. He's like, all right, you got a couple things. You have a heat pump, which means this unit outside is running constantly all day, every day, right? Whether it's heating or cooling, it's always on. He's like, I'm gonna order that part. So $500 is what it's gonna end up being. Fix this. If I would have called him on a day where it just died, it finally stopped working, it might have been the hottest day of the year, or felt like the hottest day of the year. And even him not coming out for 2-3 days as a tenant, homeowner, I can deal with it. But as a tenant, they can deal with it. We can take them air conditioning units, right? We can put window units in, but now we're going to charge to drop those off. So now you're looking at, say, $300, drop off air conditioners and units and pick them back up for a couple days. You're looking at 2 or 3 days of no air conditioning, and then maybe the parts are more expensive, or maybe this guy's busy and can't get out for 3 weeks or can't get the part. You're now dealing with potentially a house in the middle of June in DC, Maryland, with no AC for a week. That's going to cost you a lot more money. And now it might have burnt up other things. You might now need to replace this. So now you're looking at maybe $8,000, right? But even if it's just the same thing, it's the time it's the time plus the tenant now kind of going to be frustrated that it took so long. It's going to cost you more money. So our thing is, let's do preventive maintenance. If we know something's up, let's get it checked out by a professional. Let's get it fixed if we can, if there's anything. A lot of times we'll call it and the HVAC guy goes over there and the thermostat just has low batteries. We'll try to troubleshoot that with the tenant when they call us. We ask them, hey, have you changed the filter? Thermostat looked dead. Have you changed the battery? We kind of walk through stuff that we know we've dealt with. But a lot of times when the HVAC guy gets out there, he'll see something and be like, oh, it's not turned on, it's not on, that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's simple, but the goal is, like mine, I thought it was simple. I thought it was kind of weird. I've done this for 16 years and longer dealing with HVAC units. I would have never known how to switch out a relay or what was happening. So the $500 was worth it for me. I now have cool air. I know it should be good throughout the season. Worst case, if something happens, I can call this guy back and say, hey, you fixed this. Can you come back and check this out? And then maybe he'll see something else, or maybe what he fixed didn't work. So, all right, so the next thing we want to talk about is, now you have this property, your taxes, hopefully saving money on taxes, your appreciation's happening, hopefully, and then hopefully we're cash flowing. If we're not cash flowing, that's okay. Think about the stock market and my investments. Every month I put some money in the stock market, and it goes up and it looks good, and it goes down and it goes back up, right? But that's money I'm putting in for future investment. If you're not cash flowing, the way I view it, say it costs you $200 a month to have this property. That's only $2,400 a year to invest in a property that's going to go up in value, plus the tax savings. One more personal story, and then we'll end here. When I grew up in Utah, lived in Utah, I was a real estate in Utah. That's where I've owned all my rental properties, and I still have 2 of them. They're actually paid for now. Cash flow, it's been amazing. But back in the day when I was selling houses, there's a 4-plex that came available that I was gonna buy. My father-in-law was looking to get into real estate, and so I kind of helped him with the deal, because that's my job as a real estate agent. He's like, okay, you want to invest? Let me help you buy this house. So he bought the 4-plex. He was a mechanic, made good money, but was looking for write-offs. And so his tax accountant recommended, hey, maybe you should look to buy real estate, right? So he buys this 4-plex. A few years later, he goes to sell it. And he's like, I want to get rid of this thing. I have to replace the roof. All these things, right? It's not the greatest when you're always dealing with maintenance and issues and replacing hot water heaters and that kind of stuff. But he wasn't looking at the big picture. He was just looking at this month, a hot water heater. Next month, it was on the whole, he was doing pretty good. His rents were coming in. He had good tenants. It's just, it gets annoying sometimes dealing with maintenance. And I think it was actually a friend that was managing for him, not even a property management company. So he was pretty involved in the day-to-day of it. And he decided, I'm going to sell it. So his tax accountant, luckily was his friend that he was golfing with or whatever, I don't know. The guy's like, if you sell that, you're going to be paying so much more in taxes. He's like, this thing is actually, your auto shop makes good money. You have some write-offs from your auto shop as a business owner, but your real estate is really what's carrying your tax deductions. You're depreciating this property. He's actually writing off the cost of that hot water heater. He's writing off the cost of the property manager. All these are expenses that's, you can write off, right? That kind of stuff that we always hear people talk about, is now you actually own this business, you actually have true write-offs. This is getting a little bit deeper, but as a property manager and as a business owner, I have a tax accountant. Every time I go to Utah, I go visit my properties. I go drive by them. I want to see what they look like. I want to check on my property manager, make sure what he's saying. He sends me pictures, I see it, but I go check on the properties, and I can maybe write off a portion of that trip that I now use. I spent money on to go to Utah because I'm actually checking on my business in that location. So these are other tactics that quote unquote accidental landlord who's now thinking about managing and owning a rental property. But these are the tax strategies. So if I were you, I would go get on places like Bigger Pockets, search the internet of why should I keep my rental, of what's my tax deductions, what does it look like if I keep this rental and it doesn't cash flow, what's the advantages, what's the disadvantages. Again, it's knowing your property, knowing the condition. If it's a property you bought and you haven't touched it and haven't fixed it up, haven't taken care of it, and you need to get out, if you sell it, hey, you're not gonna make as much money anyways. But if it's a property you fixed up, taken care of, there's still gonna be things that happen. You're gonna know what that property looks like. And so that's kind of the easiest way for me, as a homeowner, to get into real estate investing. Have your current owner-occupied property and turn it into investment. Our goal as a property manager, any property manager in the United States, in DC, Maryland, our goal is to make your life easier. We handle the day-to-day, we handle the 2 a.m. emergency calls. If the tenant's not paying, we contact the tenant, find out what's going on, we update you. But in the end, rent should be collected on the 1st. If we don't have it by the 5th, we're updating the tenant, we're updating you. If rent gets paid, there's late fees maybe, we're depositing that money into your account on the 10th, minus management fees, minus any maintenance, each and every month. The house is a nice house. We attract good tenants. We do a good background check. Like clockwork, you should expect this money to hit your mailbox or your bank account. You know, mailbox money they say, but hit your bank account. 1,000 minus management fees, boom, done. So every month you can almost count on this $1,800. Now again, the 10% maintenance rule, stuff's gonna happen, stuff's gonna come up. Might pay late every once in a while, so you want to make sure you have a good reserve and you're not relying on this month's rent to pay this month's mortgage. You should be a couple months ahead, right? This is an investment. This is something you're ready for. But that money comes in, and then hopefully property just keeps appreciating, and in 10, 20 years, you know, have an investment that's paid for. So again, we deal with property managers. We will deal with tenants, toilets, termites. I view it as we manage people's most important investments. These are the largest investments they've ever made. We take it very serious on finding you the right tenant, on taking care of the property, managing it, treating it like it's our own. We know that for somebody, this could be, you don't get a mortgage, a rent payment, that could be your mortgage. So that's why we want to make sure that we know you're prepared for this. You're set up with multiple months reserves, be prepared for what's happening. Knowing that it's not just the cost of what's happening, it's also those other things, the triple threat, like we talked about, appreciation, depreciation, tax deductions. So again, I'm BJ with Real Property Management. If you have any questions or looking to maybe sell, should I sell or should I rent? Since this is a YouTube video and I'm kind of new to this, I'll have these somewhere here. You know, subscribe. I've never done this before. Anyway, subscribe, like, whatever, all those kind of stuff. But I'll add a video on like, hey, should I sell or should I rent? But just you reach out to us. Let us know what questions you have. We'd love to help you. Thank you for watching and good luck.